Greetings, everyone. My name is Maria Pia Spadafora, and I'm pleased to co-host today's Books and Biscotti event, brought to you by the Association of Italian Canadian Writers and Accenti magazine and the Writers Union of Canada. Please note that this event is being recorded and will be available on social media. Please remain muted during the entire event. At this time, I'll ask you to turn off your video to maximize the quality of the recording. Only the readers and hosts will have the video on. To maximize your viewing, click on Speaker View at the top right corner. And now, over to co-host Licia Canton.
Thank you, Maria Pia, and welcome everyone. I recognize that we are all on different territories at this time, but I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that I am located on unceded Indigenous lands. Tiohtià:ke, Montreal, is historically known as a gathering place for many First Nations. The Association of Italian Canadian Writers acknowledges them and other nations who care for the land across our country, recorded and unrecorded, and we pay our respects to Canada's first storytellers. It's my great pleasure to introduce my friend and colleague, Delia De Santis. Delia is a longtime volunteer of the AICW and the current vice president. She is the author of the book Fast Forward and Other Stories, as well as the editor of many volumes, including the anthology People, Places, Passages, which was published in 2018, an anthology which includes 98 Canadian writers of Italian heritage. I'm also pleased to introduce Delia's Italian translator. Maria Pia Spadafora is a freelance translator, creative writer, a teacher of Italian, English, and Spanish. She holds an MA in Modern Languages and Literature from the University of Calabria. In 2020, she translated from Spanish to Italian the story of the short film nominated for Premio Goya 2020, that is Laura Zamora's El Árbol de las Almas Perdidas. In 2021, Maria Pia's short story titled Across the Ocean appeared in the anthology Food, Migration, and Diversity, The Many Flavors of the Short Stories. Maria Pia lives and works in Milan. And now we're all looking forward to Delia's first reading.
Thank you, Licia and Maria Pia, for the introduction, and welcome everyone to my reading. I really appreciate you being there. I'm going to read a short story that I wrote recently, and I had a hard time finding the title, but anyway, the title that I give it is A Little Black Hole. And here we go. It's my first vivid memory of when I was growing up. You might think I will tell you the unusual, that I was really young when this happened, a baby in my mother's arms, or kicking my little feet in the pink crib paid by my zia, Auntie Laura, who lived in Rome and had 2 rich boyfriends. So I had heard my father say once with utter disgust. Or maybe you might assume it's a memory of a toddler. But no, the opposite. I was 5 or 6 years old already. My braids way down my back. Supper was over one evening, and there we were on the balcony off the kitchen. I was sitting on Papa's lap, and I stayed very still to not make him spill the wine from his glass, which he always filled to the brim. Vino e vita, he said, downing the first glass, half of the glass. Wine is life. Whenever he said those words, he almost looked happy, but I knew he wasn't happy, and that's why I started doing something silly, really silly. Papa, be still, I begged, trying to open wide his left eye. Gina, stop it. What are you doing? And don't forget, that's my only good eye. I just want to look. I won't poke you. I lifted the top eyelid and pulled down the bottom one. He shook himself. Listen, if I go blind, there'll be nobody to look after you. Auntie Laura will take me with her to Rome. As if I would let you go with that woman. I didn't say anything for a long time. Then I told him, you know what she always says? What does she say? She wishes you were dead instead of my mother. He shrugged. I'm not really surprised. Your aunt has never liked me, and I don't like her. She wanted your mother to be like her, but your mother was nothing like her. Your mother was beautiful in every way. But tell me, you little imp, what did you see in my eye? And he gave me his usual sideways grin. A little black hole in the middle, Papa, I giggled. Ah, a little black hole. He pinched the front of his neck. He did that a lot, as if he wanted to stretch his Adam's apple. A little black hole, he repeated. Well, don't tell anyone. People will think that a half-blind man shouldn't be looking after a little girl. And your aunt will come here figuring she can take you away from me. But I will never let that happen, not even over my dead body. Papa, I said, getting off his lap and relishing a good pounding on his chest, you always think I'm silly. And I don't like it when Auntie Laura wishes you were dead. And I went to stand by the railing, pretending to look down into the courtyard, waiting to hear what he would say. Come back here, he chided, setting his glass on the little table beside his chair. I obeyed, and I let him put his arms around me tight. And as he did that, a strange sound came out of his throat. I could tell he was sad and maybe even had tears in his eyes. I didn't want to look up into his face. I pulled away from him and ran to my room. I threw myself on my bed, and without knowing why, I began to sob into my pillow. I squeezed the pillow hard for a long time. After my sobs stopped, I sat on the edge of the bed, drying my eyes and swinging my legs. Then I brought my braids to the front, and slowly and carefully, I began to redo the ribbons on the ends. My father could never get them right. I worked at it until I got them to look perfect. I started to feel better. I also felt strangely different, but I didn't know just how. But slowly I started to wonder about a lot of things. Did my father still miss my mother? And what it would be like to miss someone you loved and that person was gone forever. My mother had been dead for 4 years. If only even a faint memory of my mother would come to me, but it never did. I wanted to feel her loss as Papa did. I wanted to feel the sadness of not having her there holding me close. And if only I could hear her voice, remember her singing to me, for Papa said she always sang me to sleep. But most of all, I wondered what it would be like to call her name. And for the first time, I heard myself say aloud, Mama. Then suddenly I jumped up. I went to see Papa. He had fallen asleep in his chair. He always rested for a while after supper before cleaning up the kitchen. I wanted to tell him that I really didn't want to go live with Auntie Laura. Ever. I would always stay with him, but I didn't want to wake him up. He needed his rest. He worked long hours in the general store we had downstairs. I would tell him later. I headed for the kitchen, and I began to clean up the way I had seen Papa do. I cleared the table and put everything away. And then I decided to start washing the dishes. It felt so good to have the water run over my hands. and I rinsed the dishes over and over to make sure they shined. I decided washing dishes was not as hard as I had always thought. It was even fun. I was starting to feel like a big girl. After, I didn't go back to the balcony. I waited for Papa to come inside and be surprised. I knew what I had done would make him happy, and maybe he would tell me that I was starting to look as beautiful as my mother, and that I would grow up to be like her, gentle and wise. Thank you for listening to this story. And I will go right on to another short story. This is a little shorter. This is an older story. It's a piece of flesh fiction. Okay, and it's called Snow on the Roofs. After knocking on her door, he walks back to the edge of the veranda to wait. His shoulder twitches. Tension begins to build up on the left side of his face. She doesn't ask him to sit down, but he knows it's all right. There are only 2 chairs, one on each side of the small, narrow table, and the baby chair is in the corner. She has forgotten to wipe it clean. Spills of baby food have dried on its tray. He thinks he can smell peaches. I'm late. I was away in Europe for 3 weeks. Doesn't matter. She doesn't smile, but her voice is mild. She fills him a cup with coffee, herself taking a mug. She knows he's not fond of mugs. He leans toward the cup. It's a dreary night, the snow too heavy on the roofs. She seals her mug with the palm of her hand, a strange habit. The warmth of the coffee is felt by her cheeks. She never asks him if he wants to see the child. She knows he doesn't come for that. From the beginning, it was settled. Still, he likes to inquire politely about his health. He had impetigo, but he's better now. A virus? It's been so long, he can't remember. He's a grandfather now. Yes, virus. But he's really better now, you see. Yes, don't worry. She has a way of letting her gaze fall away from his eyes and attaching it to some other object nearby. The dark eyes won't budge after that. She never offers a second cup of coffee, and he feels he has to go. He gets up and pushes his chair forward, aligning it carefully with the table. It's time, he murmurs. It's getting late. There's another storm, the radio said. It held for a while. She's attracted to the window, stands there staring into the blizzard. He runs his fingers over the front of his coat and finding it still buttoned, lets his other hand dip into his pocket. He places the envelope beside his empty cup, pushing it under the saucer a bit. Some people won't get home tonight. He has spoken a bit too loud. Startled, she holds her pulse tight, before turning his way. She'll worry about you, your wife. Yes. He circles the scarf around his neck. Good night. He tries to find his way to the subway. It isn't easy. The wind whistles in his ears. Snow twirls all around him. Thank you, and that's my reading. And now it's my pleasure to invite Maria Pia Spadafora to read the translation her translation of this Snow on the Roofs that I just read. Maria Pia?
Thanks, Lilia. La neve sui tetti. Dopo aver bussato alla porta, torna sul ciglio della veranda e aspetta. La spalla gli si contrae. La tensione comincia ad accumularsi sul lato sinistro del volto. Lei non gli chiede di sedersi, ma lui sa che va bene così. Ci sono solamente 2 sedie, una su ogni lato del tavolo, piccolo e stretto. Il seggiolino è nell'angolo. Ha dimenticato di pulirlo. Gocce di omogenizzato si sono asciugate sul vassoio. Gli sembra di sentire il profumo delle pesche. Sono in ritardo. Sono stati in Europa per 3 settimane. Non importa. Lei non sorride, ma la voce è mite. Gli riempie una tazzina di caffè. Lei prende una tazza. Sa che lui non ama le tazze. Sorseggia il caffè. È una notte cupa. La neve? La neve è troppo pesante sui tetti. Lei sigilla la tazza con il palmo della mano. Una strana abitudine. Senti il calore del caffè sulle guance. Non gli chiede mai se vuole vedere il bambino. Sa che non va lì per quello. Fin dall'inizio è stato deciso così. Tuttavia, gli piace informarsi educatamente sul suo stato di salute. Ha avuto l'impetiggine, ma ora sta meglio. Un virus? È passato così tanto tempo che lui non riesce a ricordare. È diventato nonno ormai. Sì, un virus. Ma ora sta molto meglio, vero? Sì, non preoccuparti. Lei ha un modo tutto suo di spostare lo sguardo dai suoi occhi per volgerlo a qualche altro oggetto vicino. Quegli occhi scuri non cederanno. Lei non gli offre mai una seconda tazzina di caffè e lui sa che è il momento di andar via. Si alza e spinge la sedia in avanti, allineandola con cura al tavolo. E ora, mormora, si sta facendo tardi. In arrivo un'altra tempesta, così hanno detto alla radio. Ha tenuto per un po'. Lei è rapita dalla finestra, sta lì a fissare la bufera di neve. Lui passa le dita sul dorso del cappotto e, trovandolo ancora abbottonato, lascia che l'altra mano scivoli in tasca. Mette la busta accanto alla tazzina vuota, spingendolo un po' sotto il piattino. Alcune persone non torneranno a casa stasera. Ha alzato un po' troppo la voce. Turbata, si tiene stretto il polso prima di girarsi dalla sua parte. Si preoccupa per te, tua moglie. Sì. Lui si avvolge la sciarpa intorno al collo. Buonanotte. Cerca di trovare la strada per la metropolitana. Non è facile. Il vento gli fischia nelle orecchie. La neve lo avvolge. Grazie.
I'm going to thank you again, Maria Pia. I guess I didn't hear that first. And I said that I enjoy that I like my stories in Italian better than I like them in English. Okay, and I guess this is the end of our reading, and I would like to give special thanks to everyone who joined us for today, and to the co-hosts, Licia and Maria Pia for the translation and joining me in reading. And I want to note that this free event was brought to you by the AICW and Accenti magazine, and with the financial support of the Writers Union of Canada and Canada Council. I hope you all enjoyed this event. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.